Welcome to the HabitStack podcast, where we talk to fellow founders who are in the thick of things as they execute their plans to grow their business. Because stories about past successes are interesting, but hearing from people who are in the middle of the battle right now, that's invaluable. I'm Scott Ward, founder of HabitStack. I'm here today with Brian Swan, who is a robotics engineer turned brand guru. He's the co-founder with his wife, Rhonda, of a company called the Unstoppable Branding Agency. Brian, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
Well, good afternoon from Buenos Aires, Argentina. If you're watching, I'm in the middle of your Ethereum's World's Fair. It's DeFi Connect, and I pulled out this little area so I could have privacy and be able to share with you and all your listeners. And thank you so much, Scott, for having me on board. I'm excited. I'm jumping on a flight to LA in a few hours.
Cool. Well, I hope that Argentina is treating you well. I spent a little bit of time in Buenos Aires and have fond memories of that. Let me ask you this, Brian. So one thing that jumped out at me, robotics engineer, now branding marketing guy. I mean, that is, I think, a very traditional. A lot of people take that career path, but why don't you? I'm just kidding. They don't. So, unpack that for me, man. How did that all turn out? What's the journey?
Yeah. So just kind of give you a heads up. I'm 51 years old. I met my wife 27 years ago surfing in San Diego. I'm from Chicago. My wife's from Detroit. We both didn't know how to surf. We met surfing in the water. We're actually having our 22nd wedding anniversary on the 28th of November. We haven't been apart, and I was robotics engineer, studied at the University of Illinois, and I took the job, was out in California, and then they positioned me down in San Diego. So I was doing robotics engineering for like life sciences, biotech, semiconductors. I actually sold actuators to Elon Musk in 2003, SpaceX. Yeah. And I didn't even know I thought it was a crazy thing until I walked in to SpaceX and there's a 100-meter rocket sitting on the floor. So I went from that world to my wife. She made a vow to never put her children in daycare. And we just bought our second house, $1 million house in North County, San Diego. And when she said this to me, I was like, well, I wish you would have told me this before we just bought our $1 million house, because we leveraged this for your income. She was in pharmaceutical sales and my income. And I said, I don't even care if I'm my boss's boss. I'm not going to have enough income to afford this.
Right.
And she goes, why don't you get a higher paying job? And I go, why don't you find something that you can work from home? And if you had my wife or know about my wife, she is a driven, she's the unstoppable mama. She's like, okay, done. And she searched stay-at-home mom. And this was before the movie The Secret came out, and she found a thing to where it was affiliate marketing of personal development. And it was had a 90-day course. And then there was events, and they were all like personal development, like Tony Robbins style. And first of all, she left the pharmaceutical industry because she was realizing she was killing more people than she was actually helping. And when she had a $47,000 month, I went, holy cow. I'm like, once I surpass my income, for both of our incomes, I'm going to quit my job. So basically she retired me, and that was back in 2004. So just over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we learned what happened is, I think most people do this. They for entrepreneurs, they have a problem. And then if they're really good at it, that could become a business. So we realized that branding, we created a brand. And I'm going to throw one other one. So this is going to make, because you don't know too much about me. It's like, we lost everything in 2008 in the financial. We had like $5 million houses. And then we had golf course development, and had basically the guys for 20 families, bankruptcy. And
oh, wow.
And I'm going to even throw one more, but it was my wife made a vow, never put her children in daycare. And my father died of AIDS when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And now sharing this is I found out like when I was 11 years old, and that was a death sentence back in, in the 90s or 80s, actually, late 80s. And he didn't know if he had 6 months, a year, or 2 years to live. So my father, have you ever seen the movie The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman?
It's on my bucket
Jack?
list to see the bucket list.
Yeah. So essentially, he took my brother and my sister. They're both older, and we went to Egypt. We went to Europe. We went to Amazon River. We traveled all around the world before he died. So when my wife said, I vowed never to put my child in daycare, when we lost everything, I said, we're never guaranteed another day in our life. And at that time, like it was 2008, we were already very successful in marketing. And then what happened was we created a brand. We started traveling. We called ourselves the Unstoppable Family. So from us being able to brand ourselves, we became extremely good at it. And then we started doing it for other ones that were kind of like going from corporate into like entrepreneur. And now we just work with like 7-figure to 8-figure, 9-figure companies that already have a brand. And now we get them PR media exposure. And so it just kind of came in from something that was like a challenge, and we became really good at it. And that's what we've been doing for 15 years. I have real estate developments in Bali. We've been living in Bali the last 10 years. So I have commercial, residential. We're doing a tokenization project, and that's why I'm here in Dev Connect, which is Ethereum's World's Fair right now. So I'm coming down here to not only connect, learn, and then also being able to speaking on these stages, because I'm really submerging myself into this world. Because what happens is like founders on the branding side, many of them, they're raising capital, but what happens if you Google their name? You don't see anything about them. That's what we do. We do digital, where you Google somebody's name, then there's coming up like interview at the New York Stock Exchange, Forbes, USA Today, something that makes it credible. So I just shared a whole bunch with you, and I'll take a breath now.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a very interesting journey. And it is true, isn't it? That basically so often, and not even just in business, just in life, that our direction and the way that we end up being able to assist others comes out of the crappy things that happen to us.
Yeah,
Sometimes the good
I
things
believe your mess is your message. And so some of the worst things in our life, like my father dying of AIDS when I was 16, turned out to be one of the best things, because I don't take any day for granted. I realize that tomorrow can be your last day, so might as well live it now, versus the whole America, retire type of thing. Why not live the life now before you're getting old and then enjoy it? I'm doing it in reverse.
Yeah. Your mess becomes your message. That's pretty
Yep.
powerful. How do you help your clients access that truth, or like find, is that part of what you help people do?
No, that's kind of a bonus if you're working with us.
Okay.
I can do that. I mean, I have also a men's group. I've been part of Wake Up Warrior for the last solid 3 years, about 5 years. And one of the things that, for this podcast on habits, it's like I have a very strong routine in the morning. And what I realized in COVID, I realized that I have to be the most strongest physically, mentally, to take care of my family, because you never know when shit's going to happen. And I've gained like 33 pounds of muscle, and I'm the strongest I've ever been at 51 years old right now. So when we work with our clients, that's we're getting them, the brand exposure, the credibility. But if you're in our circle, then I can kind of also assist. But I do have a men's group as well.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the work that you do. So when it's a specific subset of not kind of like a Swiss Army knife branding agency. It doesn't sound like it's kind of like we'll get you serious airtime. Like it's the PR side is kind of a unique part of what you do. I think, can you tell me more? I guess here's the question. What are you the best at? What, the best in the entire world? You go toe to toe in the Olympics of agencies with anybody, if it's particularly in this area. What is that area?
Okay. For toe to toe, for me personally, and also with my wife, is being out on the forefront, being able to make strong connections. So no matter how automated we get in this world, and now in this AI world, nothing ever beats the personal connection. So if I can be out on the forefront, I just met with the founders of the event, and I'm going to be speaking at these next events that are going to be, one of them's going to be in New York City. So I speak very well. And that is where most of our business comes from, is building valuable relationships. That's the key. So if I'm out there being able to produce the content, living what I do, that is where many of the clients, most of them are referrals and within communities of ours, because there's that trust factor. So what we're really good at is it's not trying to have a miracle of like, oh, okay, when we first started, was having people in the corporate world and trying to help them get into being an entrepreneur. It became a nightmare, because they're like real, like hopefully wishing that, okay, I can be this entrepreneur now, where you have to be at least 7 figures and up to work with us. So you already have a brand, you already have the revenue, you already have the thing. And this is to where we can just put fuel on the fire. And many of it.
Wait, Brian, what do you do for them?
So
Specifically, it's like interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, unpack it.
Yeah. So like, for instance, we have clients that we get them interviewed on the New York Stock Exchange. So like, let's just say a founder's looking for capital and he's getting interviewed with the backdrop instead of this, right? They're on the backdrop is the New York Stock Exchange. We also have our show, Wall Street Minute. So we get them the press. Essentially, one of the talks that I'm going to be doing for this next event, which I pitched them on, is how funders can get capital without pitching, using the PR authority method. So we get them onto high profile, like Forbes, USA Today, Inc., Success, but they already have to be credible. We're just getting them to where when you Google your name, so if I Googled your name, Scott, what is going to pull up? And I can do that right now. It's like, but if you see nothing about somebody and they're trying to raise, let's say $5, $10, $15 million, and you don't see anything about them, it's like, well, this is probably not good. And the reason why I'm here is there's many of clients that are in the digital asset world, they're looking for funding, but in the crypto world, they're like legends in the world, but it's on like Twitter, and on their LinkedIn profile will have a penguin and something weird. So I'm bridging the gap to actually have founders being credible, and they got to be credible, because if you promote some stuff that's non-legit, then our brand goes down. So we also help vet that as well. So we got team members that are in the crypto world to where they can vet to see if things are actually legit or not. And then we just amplify them incredible, so they can also speak, raise funds, etc.
So basically you're pretty specific. It sounds like your target market are founders of crypto companies who are raising money.
That's where it's been going. But we have many people like, just regular entrepreneurs that it could be there's also big in the health and wellness, and, there's so much things on, like, let's say peptides, but what separates this one from this one, we actually help tell their story in order to, like, where people buy. I mean, there's brands, but people like to buy from people. For instance, there's like Steve Jobs, right? He's the face, behind what Apple was, Richard Branson, but they can do different pivots in their life, but we're telling the story of where they're going and where they're going next. So I'd say really good at storytelling.
Yeah, cool. Can I ask you a question, Brian? So, like, do you ever come across people who, like, I mean, I need to do this. I need some PR, but I don't feel like my story is that provocative, or even my business is kind of like, it's not like a TED Talk kind of thing I got going on that's going to blow your mind. It's kind of normal, what do you do in that situation? Do you say, you know what, then I can't help you. You got to have something that makes people go, what? Or do you say like, no, no, everybody has an angle or something that's interesting. Everybody has a story. Like which approach do you take?
Well, I think you said it right. I think everybody has a story, and some people are more boring than others, but it's just being able to tell that everybody does have a story, no matter how boring they are. And we don't accept everyone because, it's like we go through the application process, got to vet them to make sure. But I think that everybody does have a story to tell. And I think your story matters.
Right.
For me, when I'm not sharing, I feel like I'm doing a disservice. Like, for instance, I post, you'll see like me working out every single day. See me reading the Bible every day. You'll see things to where that's how I live. And I think everybody has that. You're more exciting than you know. Some are more exciting than others, but I think you got to be able to tell the story because we all have something unique. And for instance, just me even telling my father died of AIDS, we lost everything. At first I was really afraid to and embarrassed to be able to share that. And then I'm like, well, this is what it is. And if you're honest, real, true, authentic, you share it. It's like people will go, wow, it's like that person's like me. And sometimes you repel people, but I think
So
everybody does have a story.
I would love to hear if you have if you have a story about somebody who came to you, said like, well, I need you, I need what you're, I need the PR, but I'm a boring person running a boring company, and you kind of like said like, no, no. Like after working with them, you're like, no, this is it, and they were like, well, I guess that's true, and then it worked.
Yeah, we've had a lot of blind people, but when it's like at the same time, what we when we do is then we have an interview and we start extracting, just like how you're extracting information about me that you probably didn't know. It's like we get to find things, we dig, and then it's like you got if so. For instance, if people are 7 figures to 8 figure company, they've had to went through some pain. There's no entrepreneur that has, let's say, an 8 figure company that has not went through some pain. And that's that pain, your mess is your message. And that's where you can be also relatable. It's like it's not an overnight success. That overnight success is you put in some work, you got kicked in the head, things have happened. So maybe some shape, it may not be like us where we've been traveling the world for 17 years. Since my daughter is 1, she's actually doing photography at the Tony Robbins event right now. She's 18 years old. She's in Mexico. I'm down here in Argentina. My wife's in Beverly Hills. Like, not everybody's like us, but we all have something unique, you know?
Yeah, that's my sense too. I think well, I resonate with what you said. Everybody has some things that are compelling about them. Some in quieter ways, some in more obvious ways. But it's a real service, I think, that you're offering to help people draw it out. Draw out that thing. I want to
Yeah.
have a question on a completely different angle. Well, maybe not completely
Yeah.
different, but you're at this so my understanding. Forgive me, I don't know that much about the conference that you're at, and actually, I mean, I know that I'm on the peripheral of crypto, but like crypto's like I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but like what's happening with crypto right now that let's say listeners are founders that are in all kinds of different businesses
Mhm.
without speaking to them like they're like crypto enthusiasts. They're
Yeah.
kind of interested, but not that interested, right? Like, hold that in your mind.
Yeah.
What should they know about what's happening in crypto right now?
Yeah. You know, it's a great question because a lot of like a couple of years ago, I've been trading, from stocks and then dabbling in trading and stuff. But the crypto side of things, like I'm here at Dev Connect and DeFi Connect, and it's talking about stable coins, talking about things to where with the Genius Act that is happening, the things are moving away from, the US dollar and like the regular banking systems. And, what I see is everything's going to be tokenization. And the way that we send money and stuff. And like the way, for instance, if you're doing wires, you send a wire and you're like, oh, is it getting there? And it's a chaotic world. It's all moving there. And the biggest thing is you got to start, it's happening if we believe it or not. I mean, the things that are getting passed right now, it's heading this way. For instance, we're doing a tokenization project in Indonesia, but it's like real world assets. So if you think about it like a fund and people, or let's just say buying a house into a development, you're buying a single thing. Now you can be able to purchase like a fractional ownership. It's probably the easiest way into like a tokenization. So we're doing that also on utilities, like for services. So it's
okay. Wait, you gotta slow down. So I mean, again, I'm on the peripheral of these things. So when you say tokenization and that translating that to fractional ownership, what the heck are you talking about exactly? Like you're talking about like somehow there's an entity that owns the title to a house and it sells itself via whatever. I mean, like just maybe help me understand that a little bit.
Instead of buying a villa, you can buy a fractional, you can be like a fraction, so you can own a piece of it per se.
But that's, how is that related to crypto? Because that's an old model, right? Like a fraction, that's whatever, timeshare kind of thing or something. But how does crypto fit into that?
So it's the way that you're able to actually be able to not only move the money, but being able to purchase things to where, like, let's say funds and stuff, then you got to put in a certain amount. You can actually start purchasing things on the exchanges and stuff for like a tokenization of a specific company. And it could vary from, like one of the companies I'm working with, they got 15 different divisions. So you can participate in that company through the tokens without, like, let's say buying a house, but you can do it with all the divisions. And if it's like a stock, per se, but then you're also, you don't have it's a different regulations and stuff. So
it's about friction.
It's
about friction or reduction. Essentially, if you tokenize something, you can just buy it. You can just go on, do your wallet, whatever, and now it's analogous to what used to take a bunch of legalities and work and everything, and maybe even impossible across certain borders or whatever, but now that's all gone. It's basically, you can get it's the same idea. It's actually exactly the same value proposition with no friction. Is that?
Yeah, it's that, and it's a little bit more on, being able to, there's different regulations, different speeds. Like this, for instance, the stock market, you're only trading between like 9 to 5.
Right.
Here on, in the crypto world, it's 24/7. Things don't stop. And then it's also, you can see trades and stuff versus New York Stock Exchange. There's a lot of stuff that you don't see, whereas here up on the blockchain, everything is seen. So it also, it takes out the things behind the scenes. So I'm enjoying it. 2 years ago, I knew, like, just trying to, it was more like gambling. Not like, oh, this stock, right. And then they're having the meme coins that have no value whatsoever. And a lot of those, there's probably 90% scams, and you got to weed through the things. So we're doing it not of just, like day trading, but actually it's part of your business and kind of like the infrastructure, and it's heading that way. So you're going to learn a lot more about it. And when I'm at these events, these the nerds that that's all they know. And I'm coming from the outside. I'm asking these questions like, all right, this is how this can work. And this is how you put this together. So it's a big learning experience.
One thing you talked about earlier in this on this topic is that we're moving away from the US dollar and we're moving away from regulation. And my impression again, on the peripheral of this stuff, is that has been the worldview, like, or the mantra. Like, it kind of makes sense that's what's being said at the conference you're at, because that's what they need and want to happen. But my sense is that it's like, that's cool. Like that basically what's happened is that governments have said, no, we are going to regulate this, like there's,
but that's,
and that, so I I push back on that a little bit? Like, are you sure that that's not just
Yeah.
what they want at the conference to be true, but is that really what's happening? It seems like it's going the other direction.
Well, when you're saying it's going in the other direction of
More
what?
regulation. Like they're saying like, no, you got.
And that's the thing. And it's kind of going to where how much control is the government having? And we're going to be seeing that, it's, before it was the crypto world's like we're pirates and stuff. And then you got chains like Coinbase, like, not chains, but you got like Coinbase, and that's definitely regulated. And there's more ones that are coming. Even some of them are going onto the New York Stock Exchange. So it's still that we're finding, you're kind of figuring things out while it's going, And then there's people trying to capitalize. There's so many, these meme coins that have nothing behind, and it's just gambling. So you see a lot of that, that's making the headlines, but the way that business is working, there's making a shift. And now a lot of the companies, they're like, oh, we know we need to do it. How do we do it? And yes. So I'm still in the discovery phase too.
Yeah,
On
with
that.
meme coins, man, like I gotta admit, like I don't understand why that happens basically
I
at
don't-
all. Other than like, is it a joke? Is it just, or is it like actually you can make a bunch of money on a meme coin if you like, is it everybody, is it a game of chicken that everybody plays and there's always losers, but if you play it just right, you can make a bit of money and then get out? Or like what in the
I'm
world?
not,
What in the
I'm
world?
not, I'm not, if it doesn't have any substance behind it and there's nothing, to me, it's just gambling. It's a bunch of,
But it's gambling. Like this is
that's gambling on
Yeah.
meme coins and stuff. But when you can actually put it into your business to actually be able to have it actually work more efficient, and that's where it's like, it has to have some substance behind it. So meme coins and that kind of stuff, I don't even partake in that.
So you run it. Okay. So you run a branding agency. Like how do have you incorporated crypto somehow into the mechanisms of your business? Like, do you take crypto or something? Is that
Not,
somehow better? Or
we have, but I wouldn't say that's like, when I'm talking about the crypto stuff, this is something that I've had to immerse myself, because we've had companies that are like, okay, I'm trying to, for instance, tokenizing gold, which you can tokenize gold instead of, owning a portion of it. But there's also scams behind it, like Tether. That's legit. You can see that they have it back. And then there's other ones that are like, oh, we're doing the same thing. So being able to vet, and we got people that can go into that world and see, and that world is totally different. Where it's not like just on the stock exchange where you're like, you actually have to do research and find out. A lot of the times it's the people that are the problem. It's like you can have the idea, but it's like who's running it, and you got to do some homework. So it's still kind of a wild west, but it's I've had to immerse myself in it, because we had to vet, real ones versus not ones. And, it's like, I want to be safe. You get one bad deal like that and our name is tarnished.
yeah, I see. Yeah. So basically it's due diligence on your part. Is it because you're seeing,
Absolutely.
some of your prospective customers are coming from this area.
And we've had to shut some down, and we're like, it's just like, we're not confident from what we've seen. And if we can't go through that, and it's like, no, we're just going to hands on. So that's something that's happening in our world. But, up until the last 2 years, we didn't have anybody in that world.
Right.
Mostly it was like, founders of company with brick and mortar, maybe some services and stuff, which is, you can, easily see.
Yeah. I wonder if you're seeing an increase in people coming to you for help who are raising money, because you're having to be, it's harder work to raise money right now. Essentially, it's like, it's more competitive. There's just not money floating around as much if you're needing to get funding. And so this is helping your business. What do you think?
For funding, there's so much capital out there, and then it's connecting with the right people. So we also have people that, that's what they do. We're able to vet and be able to like, all right, here's a hand up, talk to these people. So we're helping people that have legitimate businesses that are doing great stuff, and then getting the credibility. So it's, it's like to where people just simply Google their name and what do you see,
Right.
you know?
Cool. Can I ask you, so let's talk a little bit about business stuff, more like kind of like structure and how to operate well, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
how is do you have a leadership team? And what's the structure of your company? How do you operate it so that it's, is it mostly run without you? I don't think so. But how do you involve? Like what's the structure?
Yeah. So my wife and myself, we're the co-founders of the company. My wife's really the face of it. She's doing the show. She has like a few of her own shows, the Rhonda Swan show. She has a Wall Street Minute. Um, I'm out there with her. I've done a lot of the kind of like the automation background systems behind. I'm a robotics engineer, so I'm all about the systems. She's go, go, go. I'm out there with her. We got our sales team, head brand engineer, and then we got our PR. We got our PR people that are writing the stories, having the connections with the different publications. And yeah, we got up to like during COVID, we had about 8 people, and then we started scaling, brought on operations manager, and then scaling, we had about 50 employees. And then I was like, who does what, and we've scaled it back. And, but now we're lean and mean, and most of our people have been with us for at least 5 years. So we run it pretty tight.
Where are you guys at now in terms of how many people on the team?
Internally about 10 or so. And
Yeah.
then we have our different publication people that we're working with. But like
Right.
internally, we got 2 marketing people, we got a head of sales, got a few hundred salespeople. And then for the PR managers, I think we got about 3 or 4. And yeah, about 10 employees that are internal.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, I don't know how you would say it, but is the leadership team basically you and your wife, or is there somebody else that you would add onto that in that category?
Our head brand engineer, he's been taking a lot of the roles to allow Rhonda and I to be out there. So when Rhonda and I have to get into the day-to-day stuff, business slows down. If we're out there making the connections, that's where the magic happens. So I'd say Thomas is our kind of our operations head of kind of connecting the dots. So it goes through him, and then we have a head of PR, and those are kind of like the way that it flows down.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
right.
So companies or founders go through this transition where they are the leadership team, and then eventually it's like like just like you described it, there needs to be other people involved at the leadership level, and that can be, well, it's a journey. Can you tell, like, how did you know that it was needed to bring Tom in, and then what were some of the things, if there's any things that were like, that didn't work well when we had to make this change? I'm just curious about your how do you perfected that structure?
Well, I think we were jamming during COVID. What also happened during COVID was that the world shut down. So where was business done? On Zoom.
Yeah.
And then, it wasn't events. So it's like, think of like the real estate people and stuff. It's like, it's a person business, schmoozing, dinners and stuff. And now everybody's like, oh my God, you don't have anything online. Like, that's where people are looking. So there was a big surge on, 2020, 2021. And then the world kind of like opened back up, and we were putting on events every like 3 to 4 months. And that became its own business, and like to where you're always working for the next event. So COVID was a beautiful thing for us. It was beautiful. And also when the guy was scaling and hiring all the people, it got out of control in the fact of they were hiring people to help that person. And we had to like kind of rein it back into like, okay, we just need the core people. And also the culture is an important thing. And Rhonda and I, we are leading. Like Rhonda, my wife, she's like, kind of like, she's the founder of it. People are looking for her, and I'm kind of like the guy in the back. We had to like bring it back to who are the right people that are fitting with, like our values. And, it's like, and that's going to be different for each company. One of our clients came in, he was just with us in New York. My wife went down to, with them, to Biohack Yourself event that was in Tampa. He had the same thing. He had about 100 employees, and he's down to about like 20 right now, but lean and mean and really, you got to set that culture of what are the values. Each company has to have that. And, it's a learning process. So we went from like 15 employees down to like 10, and, it was a painful process. But now we've hit our sweet spot. And now when we hire, I like to hire really internally from different communities that we're in, and so takes a lot of guesswork out. And we're really focused on tight communities. We're part of a few different ones. One of them being that they have the quarterly meeting in Dallas, which that's where you're at, right? And so I go to the board of advisors. It's like a $30K per year, but you're dealing with founders and people that they've been vetted to a certain thing. And a lot of the people that, that you can work with are kind of within that community itself. And I'm part of another community. Almost every one of the founders, they need what we have. And, it takes a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of PR media, they'll be pitching you on retainer. We do a paid for, so we guarantee the placements versus just, hey, we're going to help you get that. We have our own ones that we know. And if we can't do it, then we're not going to be able to pay you out.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's such an interesting story. So basically, what you're saying is during the when you're doing events, regular events, you had somebody that you kind of delegated that to build out. It sounds like, and run that, and kind of what exactly happened? It was just there was too much.
So
overhired or something.
Yeah, overhiring, and then we are like our business evolved around us hosting events, and then that's where we'd also make sales into our different higher level packages. We don't have many events. We're mostly speaking at events now, and that's where. And my wife, she has a wild X stage where it's a prelude to get people on the TEDx talk. So we've had a couple of those, and we build really good communities within there. So our events now are like about once every 6 months, but we speak at a lot of events.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are definitely up to a variety of things, Brian. So we got a few irons in the fire. A very interesting story, quite an arc of a journey, and it's been fun to hear about all the different aspects of what you're up to, some of the things you've learned, and some of the experiences that you had.
You want me to throw one more wild one out there for you?
Yeah, let's finish off. Give me your last wild story.
The wildest one is my wife. She goes out to New York once a month, called our New York movie tour. And one of the guys, they had bare knuckle fighting. So bare knuckle fighting is like UFC, but it's just bare knuckle. It's brutal to get. And one person that had actually the mother of the marketing guy for bare knuckle fighting reached out to Rhonda because she loved Rhonda. She's like, you got to reach out to this lady. And he goes, are you in New York City right now? She goes, no, I'm going to be there on Monday. He goes, can you fly out tomorrow? We're having bare knuckle fighting. So she did the commentating and interviewing the fighters. And then we're able to have distribution. And so now we're actually going, have you ever heard of MMA Junkie on Instagram? It's a fighting thing, but that's part of like USA Today Network. We're going to be, my wife's going to be commentating the bare knuckle fighting in December 5th in Miami. And that's going to be a whole different leg.
Brian, hey, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to be on it. Thank you from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and glad to be able to connect with you.
All the best. Founders, if you're struggling to manage goals and execution with your team, HabitStack can help with that. I'm Scott Ward. Thank you for joining me on the HabitStack podcast.